let's see. Zachary, by the way, is the chief critic of TheaterMania, and he is here. Please unmute Zachary.
Good morning, Dave.
Welcome, Zachary. Now, you caught us just in the middle. We're already running slightly late of doing a couple of trivia quiz questions, and then we'll get to your category. So since you're here, I'm going to put you on the spot with two quick questions. And give a moment. I know you'll know the answers, but we're also allowing the audience to kind of think. This one's, we're just listing famous pop and rock music people and wondering what shows, what jukebox musicals used their stuff. You'll know this one. For example, we were just talking about like Johnny Cash, and it was Ring of Fire. The Beach Boys had Good Vibrations. So what was Carole King's musical called?
Oh, it was Beautiful, of course, and it ran for 5 years at the Stephen Sondheim Theater. And
yeah, there you go. Yeah, remember, not everybody here is a Zachary Stewart who runs TheaterMania, who's the chief critic for TheaterMania. So I got one more though, and this is also very recent. The Temptations.
Oh yes, of course. What was that even called now? I know there was a Temptations musical. It was. Oh, I'm drawing a blank, Dave. This was just on Broadway.
Please don't leave me now. Don't you go.
I need to drink more coffee before I do this.
Don't make me.
Don't make me. Oh.
Don't make me.
Oh, bag.
Oh, Ain't Too Proud, right?
Ain't Too
Proud. You see 11, 12, 13 of these a season, and they all start to blend in.
And I'm very sorry to put you on the spot. It was wrong of me to go over with that segment because we are going to be talking about something that you are very prepared to talk about, Zachary Stewart, because your category on the Dave's Gone By Tony show, let me make sure I have my paper here, is actress in a play. And it's a cool category. Let me read the nominees and you'll have your say about them. For example, Gabby Beans, what a name. Gabby Beans in Skin of Our Teeth, LaShawne's Trouble in Mind, Ruth Negga in Macbeth, Deirdre O'Connell as Dana H., Mary Louise Parker in How I Learned to Drive. Zachary Stewart, your thoughts?
Well, this was the first time I had ever seen Gabby Beans in the Lincoln Center revival of Skin of Our Teeth, Thornton Wilder. This is a massive play about the end of the world and one family from New Jersey living through it. And, she makes there it is, there's the playbill. She makes a really big choice in the character. She's kind of this outsized, grotesque character, but then sometimes, she'll come back and it'll be the actress leveling with you. And this is Wilder doing some Brechtian flourishes on the Broadway stage. I'm not sure she's really a contender in this, but I'm glad she was nominated, and it was a great Broadway debut for her. LaShawne's, of course, is better known to Broadway audiences for her work in musicals, like The Color Purple. But she was in the revival of an Alice Childress play called Trouble in Mind. Do you have the playbill for that one?
I didn't even see it. I'm sorry.
I think I might have.
We should have. It was wonderful, I've heard.
Yeah, no, it was a marvelous production. It was late in coming. This was supposed to have been on Broadway in the 50s, and it was canceled by its producers because the playwright refused to compromise with her vision and the story she wanted to tell. And so now it's finally gotten its due. LaShawne's was marvelous in it. It's a bit of a backstager. It's about an actress and a group of Black actors performing this anti-lynching play that is a bit over the top and self-congratulatory, for New York white liberals. And she was wonderful in it, but the show has been closed for many months, and I'm not sure it's quite fresh in the minds of voters. However, Ruth Negga is right now playing Lady Macbeth on Broadway in the Broadway revival of Macbeth opposite Daniel Craig. Did you see this one, Dave?
I did not see it, no.
It's a wonky sort of version of Macbeth. There's about 5 visions going on here. This is what the director Sam Gold often does. It almost seems as though you're watching his rehearsal process on stage, but it never quite made it out of the rehearsal room, did it? So, she's a marvelous actor. I saw her play Hamlet at the St. Anne's Warehouse in Brooklyn a couple of years ago, and she was wonderful in this. And so I kept wondering, maybe what would have made this production better was if she and Daniel Craig switched roles every single night, kind of like Laura Linney and Cynthia Nixon did in The Little Foxes. But you know, instead we get what I think is kind of a standard issue mad scene in Lady Macbeth. This is not her best work, and I don't think she's going to win a Tony for this. The real competition in this category is going to come between Mary Louise Parker, who's in the Broadway revival of How I Learned to Drive.
Oh, jeez. You don't have to wait for me. Even
Our visual aid right there, yes. She's
to.
reprising a role that she played at the Vineyard off-Broadway 25 years ago.
Yeah.
And she is a remarkable actor. She won this category last year. It was less than a year ago, really, but it was that weird season that was
she
wrapping
won
up.
or for the, what do you mean she won this category?
Well, no, she won the Best Actor in a Play category last
for a different show.
Mary Louise Parker,
right.
for The Sound Inside.
Got it. Yeah.
And she is incredible. And, you know, this will be back-to-back wins for her if she gets this. And I think she very well could. I still think she's the front runner in this. Her play is open. Voters can go see it. It's fresh in their minds. She's giving a remarkable performance, and no one would begrudge her for winning this. However, my personal favorite, and someone who I think really has a shot at this, is Deirdre O'Connell in Dana H., which was a show that was also at the Vineyard and then transferred to Broadway for a brief, unsuccessful run. But it's Lucas Nath, who Broadway audiences might remember from A Doll's House Part 2, which was on Broadway a few years ago. This is the story of his mother and how she was actually kidnapped by a neo-Nazi. And the way that it's told is you hear his mother's actual voice in these interviews about it. And then the actor, Deirdre O'Connell, who's playing her on stage, has to lip sync this performance in its entirety. And so as an actor, usually you have a bit of leeway when you're interpreting a role, right? You know, you choose when to breathe, you choose when to emphasize certain words, you choose the pacing and the cadence of what you're saying. None of this is given to the actor here. She has to conform to the recording and still bring somewhat of herself and her choices to the performance. And Deirdre O'Connell does this. It still haunts my memory. It is one of the most incredible physical performances I've ever seen on stage. And I think the fact that it requires that kind of rigor may stick in voters' minds, you know? It's something they can hold on to. Like, there's a reason why when it comes to, say, costume design as a Tony, oftentimes period dramas and costume dramas get it, because you can physically see the work, you know, you have this tangible thing to hold on to. And I think when it comes to acting, this performance, you know, you really see the work that went into it. It's almost like figure skating. And Deirdre O'Connell has landed all of her triple axels in this performance.
And also, she's been such a stalwart off Broadway for like 3 decades at this point. There may be, you know, as great as she, I didn't see Dana H., but as great as she might have been, there's also this sense of, oh, you know, about time she made it to Broadway in an extraordinary way. Let's give it to her. Even though Mary Louise Parker was great. Were there any people you thought were left out of this category, if not unfairly, because there was just no room, but someone who would have fit in very comfortably?
No, I think this is about right, actually.
Okay.
And I'm thrilled, as you said, that Deirdre O'Connell is here, because she is consistently good in everything she's in. And there is an element of equity in this kind of thing in awards. You know, people remember, oh, they were snubbed for this in the past. I think this is one of the things that will carry, not to move out of my lane too much, but Joaquina Calacango across the finish line for an incredible performance she's giving in Paradise Square, you know, but she was in this very category a bit robbed for Slave Play last year. You know, I thought she was giving an incredible performance in that. So there's equity in this. Rob McClure, who you were just mentioning on the show, I think is the Susan Lucci of these awards and is building up such a momentum that when he finally does win, it must be overwhelming. Kelly O'Hara occupied a similar position until I want to say 2016. You know, she was always nominated, never won, but was consistently giving great performances.
Well,
So
let's just
yeah,
hope it
Deirdre
doesn't.
O'Connell.
Yeah, no, let's just hope it doesn't take until like Rob McClure's doing King Lear in
Oh my gosh.
2049.
I would go to that production of King Lear gladly, though, and I'm sure he would kill it.
Now, let me ask you, of all the shows that you, Zachary Stewart, saw on, off, even off Broadway all season long, did you have, one or two absolute favorites?
There were two, a play and a musical. And the play was Martina Mayak's Sanctuary City, which was a holdover from before the pandemic. A lot of companies have been tying up loose ends and really keeping to their commitments that they made to artists before the pandemic, which is something that I've been really glad to see. Sanctuary City is a play about two young people, one of whom becomes an American citizen, the other of whom is undocumented in this country, and they plan to get married when they're adults. The only problem is he's gay and is in a relationship with a man, and this somewhat complicates things. This is a multi-year story of their relationship and who they are and what they are, and it not only was told beautifully and directed by Rebecca Frecknell in almost this cinematic way where you could see the jump cuts on stage, but it really touched me personally because I lived through a very similar story with my own husband. You know, he was here on an F1 visa and couldn't become a citizen for a long time. I met him Bush administration, you know, and so this was something that didn't change in our federal policy until the repeal of DOMA, the Defense of Marriage Act. And so, you know, for me, this was something that, and I've known a lot of people in this position as well. And so for me, this was something that really struck me personally, and I thought it was just a beautiful piece of theater. The musical that I thought was the very best musical of this year was not on Broadway. It was way downtown at Here, and it was Taylor Mack's The Hang. And this is a musical about the last hours of Socrates, where he basically has just a big party, you know, before he ingests hemlock at the direction of the state. And it was Taylor Mack, you know, it had these beautiful costumes from Machine Dazzle that looked like they were, you know, fished out of garbage and turned into runway couture. And it was, you know, as Taylor Mack is, fun, irreverent, and smart. There was a line that resonates through my memory from it, and it was, beware the commerce of your outrage. And it was about how so much of what we do in our lives now, the hours we spend scrolling through our devices and looking at our screens, are about being pricked, you know, in our minds, our outrage that keeps our eyeballs engaged and clicking, and how this is all being used to sell us things as well. Very, very smart that Socrates should be telling us this through the centuries.
Wow, I should have hung with that show. Everybody's mentioning shows like I did not get to see for various reasons, and now I'm like, oh, I should have gone to that. I wish I'd seen that. You know, I did not like Max play on Broadway a couple of years ago.
Gary,
I hated
the
that.
Titus Andronicus play. Yeah.
Oh God, but I would give him another shot just from the way you're talking about his musical, The Hang. But we have had a wonderful time hanging with Zachary Stewart. Now, please read Zachary Stewart, excuse me, in TheaterMania.com. And let me ask you, what is going to be your way of watching the Tonys? Are you going to be there? Are you going to be at home with your husband just watching on TV or on the computer?
I'm going to be sitting on this very couch watching Paramount Plus, and then I guess switching over to CBS. Maybe it'll continue on Paramount Plus. I'm never quite sure about these things, but I'll be writing a review of the telecast, which you can see on TheaterMania Monday morning.
Look for it, Zachary Stewart. And Zachary, thank you so much for being with us in the day.
Always a pleasure. Thank you for having me, Dave.
Have a great one. Thank you, man. Happy Tonys.
Bye-bye.
Zachary Stewart from TheaterMania.com here on the Dave's Gone by Total Theater Tony Broadway special.